Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you guys? We hope you guys are doing well. Today is the fifth group's turn to taking over the class, and we're going to deliver a presentation entitled The Analysis of Interculturality Competence on a Classroom Setting. Before we jump to the material, let me introduce you to our members. We have 8 people within the group. They are Reza Octaviabri, me, myself, Farida Nurul Aini, Agus Fani, Elvidiana, Ilmi Alvan, Widodo Haji Pradana, Wahyu Devani, and the last one, Hafiz Bagas Riantama. There are several matters that we've analyzed from the video. And first of all, we'll give you the summary. It's a brief explanation of what the video is about. And then we have verbal communication, non-verbal communication, social or culture conflict, problem solving, and the last one is point of view. The video that we've analyzed is a video uploaded by a YouTube channel called Massachusetts, DESE. And the video is titled 4th Grade ELA Main Idea, which leads us to know that the video will be about 4th graders studying how to find a main idea. As far as what is seen in the video, the class contains a teacher and approximately 16 students divided into 4 tables of 4 people each. The teacher started the class by asking the students what are they going to learn, and then she mentioned the objective of the class as the aim of the learning, which is to be able to identify the main idea and supporting details from what they read and create a summary using the supporting details. The teacher asked the students to do some tasks that must be completed as a team. And since it's ELA or English Learning Art Lesson, we can find in the video that the teacher asked the students to read the given text and highlight sentences that they thought were the main idea, and then convey it to the other students. They also learned to listen to other people's explanations and see if there is any difference of opinion. It is also in line with the concept of ELA, which is in the learning process of reading, writing, speaking, listening, and also viewing.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Widodo Haji Pradana, and my ID number is 193201008. In this part, I would like to explain about the verbal communication in this video. There are many ways to communicate with other people. The two main ways are verbal and non-verbal communication. The term verbal communication often evokes the idea of spoken communication, but written communication is also part of the verbal communication. Verbal communication is the use of words to convey a message. Some forms of verbal communication are written and oral communication. The example of the written communication is letters, texting, emails, and books. The example of the oral communication is the face-to-face conversation, speech, host on a radio, interview. The form of verbal communication on this video is included in the face-to-face conversation category because there is a conversation between the teacher and the student in the classroom setting. In explaining verbal communication in this video, I'll take several pieces of the conversation that I will analyze. Let's begin to the analysis.
What are we here to learn?
At the 9th second, at the beginning of this video, the teacher cites, "What are we here to learn?" This dialogue indicates that the teacher will be start the class at this meeting. The teacher asks the student what material will be studied. Then at the 11th second, the student in this classroom simultaneously answer "main idea." Students in this class can immediately answer what the material will be studied today. This indicates that the students are ready to follow the lesson that will be given by the teacher. After the teacher explains the material, she says, "You may begin in the minute of 48 seconds."
You may begin.
The purpose of the dialogue is that the teacher wants the student to read the material by themselves. This is done to make the student understand for themselves how to solve the problems. At the minute 1.12 second, the teacher says, "Okay, stop."
Okay, stop.
This indicates that the teacher told the student to stop reading and the material will be explained again by the teacher. Look at the conversation.
Okay.
In this conversation, when the teacher asks what your answer going to be, she wants to test the student's ability to understand the material and be able to work on the existing question. After the student answered large mosquitoes, then the teacher answered okay. With this answer, it indicates that the teacher already knows that his students can understand the material that has been explained and can solve the existing question. Okay, thank you. That is all of my explanation about the analysis verbal communication on this video. Thank you, and the next part will be explained by my friends.
My name is Reza Octaviabri with students ID number 193200105. I will explain to you about nonverbal communication. What is nonverbal communication? Nonverbal communication is the process of sending and receiving messages without using words. Nonverbal communication refers to gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, spaces, and others. Okay, let's start with the analysis of nonverbal communication in classroom setting. From the video, I get 5 data that shows nonverbal communication. First, the students paid their bags. In minute 0.23, the teacher gives instructions, give yourself a pat on the back if you're ready. Then, the students paid their back, which means they are ready. This is a nonverbal communication in the form of gesture. Students carry out the instruction asked by the teacher as a form of their interaction.
Okay, give yourself a pat on the back if you're ready. Okay, let's turn those papers.
Second, a student does hands up. In minute 5.36, when the teacher was explaining the material and asking a question, a student wearing a green shirt does hands up. This is a nonverbal communication in the form of gesture. Actually, the hands up gesture has many meanings, like one of them greeting someone. However, in the video, the act of the student raising his hand means he knows the answer to the question asked by the teacher and he wants to try to answer.
Here we go. Which insect does a water strider resemble? Hudson, can you tell me where you found that answer?
Paragraph 2.
Okay, next. A student put on an annoyed face. In minute 8.04, a student put on an annoyed expression after the teacher said something to her. This is a nonverbal communication in the form of facial expression. Her expression showed that she was annoyed with her teacher who didn't accept her opinion.
You possibly could find it. Possibly.
Okay, but remember we worked on opinions and our prior knowledge. We can't bring any of that to the text. So you have to be able to find it in that passage to highlight it.
This is it spends most of their time.
Fourth, a student nods and shakes head. In minute 14.45, A female student wearing a blue shirt nodded her head when the teacher asked something. This can mean yes. Then, at 14:50 minutes, she shook her head when the teacher asked, "Do you have anything else?" Her action means no. She had nothing else to say. Both are nonverbal communication in the form of gesture. The act of nodding and shaking the head has different meanings in different countries. For example, in Bulgaria, nodding your head means no, while shaking your head means yes.
The classification. Okay, think of food. Think of food. Are there different types of food? Okay, name some types of food for me. A sandwich. Okay, fruit, meat. Do you have anything else? Do you have any sugar? Nothing sweet? Not a brownie or anything?
The last is teacher doing high five with a student. In minute 16:08, the teacher gave a high five to a student after the student could answer the question correctly. This is a nonverbal communication in the form of gesture. The action has the meaning of "good job, boy." High five is a gesture that shows a pleasure or admiration for something.
You're there, bud. Find it.
Like all insects, the water strider has 6 legs.
Okay, so that was paragraph 4. Right here. Like all insects. Graham, give me 5. Okay, I had a group.
Social or cultural conflict. The cultural conflict in this material is more likely to lead to misunderstanding, so that the understanding, cause and example of sentence in the misunderstanding will be explained. Understanding, misunderstanding. One of the communication barriers and very likely to create conflict. A condition of misunderstanding usually arises when an information received by the communicant has a different meaning from that intended by the communicator. This misunderstanding takes many forms, ranging from trivial things in everyday life to misunderstanding by the political elite that determine the lives of many people. The cause of the misunderstanding. The average misunderstanding does occur in communication that is still basic, namely the stage of simple communication. At this stage, communicator and communicant feel that they still do not need to discuss the problem in detail. So, sometimes there are several things that become a source of misunderstanding. In addition, it's also caused by the level of communication skill that are not good, whether it's in terms of conveying information or in terms of receiving information. Example of misunderstanding. In the video at minute 8 until 8:53. But remember that we work on opinion and our prior knowledge. We can bring any of that to the text. So you have to be able to find it in that passage to highlight it. This is where it spends of most the time. Okay, but the question is look science. The title of the article is Water Striders. Would you find a water striders on land? I remember one of the paragraph was telling about when something passed it off. Okay, find it. You are getting there. Find it. She said, I remember, but no help her find it. She remember it talked about it passing it off. Let's give everyone another second or two to work on it a little bit further. But you're the group that I heard. Okay, stop. Emily group up their things, they have the answer. Remember, if your group didn't get to it, you need to listen to where you can find the information in the text and highlight it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So this is my turn. But let me introduce my name. My name is Ilmi Alvanovia with ID number 19320029. In this section, I wanna explain about the other social or cultural conflicts that usually occurs in the classroom. because we don't find many other social conflicts that occur in the video, so I will give another example of conflicts that usually occur in a classroom setting. Okay, so let's start from the stereotype. Stereotypes, which are general beliefs about certain categories of people, can also appear in a classroom setting. Negative stereotypes that occur in the classroom lead to prejudice, suspicion, intolerance, or hate of other cultural groups. For example of stereotype in the classroom setting, the first is a stereotype of student who views his friend who is less fortunate in all subjects as a naughty student or bad student and often engages in negative activities. And then stereotype of student saying in his new classmate as monkey or dirty human or anything else because he is from a black race. So from this stereotype sometimes can trigger bullying against students in the classroom. And then the next is ethnocentrism. Another social conflict that can also occur in the classroom is ethnocentrism, because in a classroom there must be several kinds of students with diverse cultural backgrounds. From the existence of cross-cultural interaction, they sometimes assume that what they believe is true because they grow up thinking that their way is the best. For example of ethnocentrism in the classroom setting is about grade. Student views on the grades in a subject. There is one student who thinks that the grade of a subject is everything, so he does everything like cheating and anything. But other students have another assumption that the grade of an attitude is better than the grade of a subject. This can be motivated by a culture that views that a person is considered to be smart and educated if he has good grade in a subject, and another view places a higher attitude grade because of his culture, which believe that good knowledge is obtained in a good way. So this is about the social or cultural conflict that usually occurs in the classroom, and then the next move to the problem solving. Thank you.
Okay guys, the next is about the problem solving in classroom setting. Then I got 3 points of that. The existence of this in order to avoid misunderstanding that happen in classroom setting. Some way are done such as listen to the open's opinion. That first. Listening may sound like a trivial thing, but it is hard for some people to do it. It is important that you learn to listen to others' explanation. Don't interrupt where you are still talking. That the first. Then the second, use low note and volume. Tone and volume when expressing your opinion affect the way the other person respond. If you raise your pitch and volume, the other person may take the obvious to do so lower the volume of voice, so that the emphasis of the word in your explanation can be best conveyed without accusing other plain. Then the third is a clarification of statement. It is important for you to repeat and clarify your opinion. Start by explaining more detail of the event yourself. It is kind of clarification between what you witnessed and what you thought. This is in order to avoid differences in perception to avoid intimacy with the other person.
Okay, for the next is problem solving in classroom setting. Learning how to handle disagreements or misunderstanding and conflict is a critical part of social emotional learning. Social skills like cooperation, empathy, and self control are integral to emotional development and conflict resolution. In order to avoid misunderstanding that happen in classroom setting, it can be done by two ways such as The first is listening, the second is respecting one another. Many conflicts start because of misunderstandings and miscommunication. Teaching students good listening habits can be an important tool. Start with a classroom discussion about recent student conflicts. We are likely to hear things like "he wouldn't listen" or "they didn't understand what I was saying." This is a good opportunity to let students realize the power of listening. It also lends itself to teaching how to listen. So, for this point, we have to teach the student to look directly at the speaker and make eye contact. The second, let the speaker talk without interruption. For the next is asking question. Also, don't give advice or over suggestion, and the last is give the speaker positive reinforcement by nodding or smiling. The second manner that can be done in problem solving classroom setting, respecting one another. Respecting one another and try to accept one another's opinion is the key point to avoiding any controversy that would lead to hostility. Also, in this point, we have to do and we have to consider other opinion and don't be judgment of someone else. The next problem solving how to avoid ethnocentrism and stereotypes. Ethnocentrism burdens us with the belief that our culture, race, and way of life is superior to those of others. It prevents understanding and incites conflict when action and words are seen as traits rather than different ways of experiencing life. Two ways to avoid the ethnocentrism and stereotypes. The first is making friends. Friendship cuts through a lot of misconception simply because we see them as individuals rather than as collection of traits. An easy way to cultivate friends or different viewpoints is to volunteer for joint culture clubs. The second is learning about other groups. This is the easiest way to discover that everybody, despite their culture, experience the same joys and heritage we do. So, that's the problem solving that can we do in the classroom setting.
Alright, my name is Hafiz Bagasriantama. My student ID number is 19320084. So the last material here is going to talk about point of view in the classroom setting. So the first one here is promoting culture in the school and classroom. An interculturally competent teacher could provide a positive example for their students by promoting an inclusive classroom environment through cultural awareness and respect. The example of this is addressing a student by their proper name, and we can find this in the video mentioned that the teacher made an effort to learn each student's name, and showing this cultural understanding helps foster positive relationships between teacher, students, and even parents. The teacher is only one individual in the classroom, and by utilizing peer supports for students may help build community in the classroom and integrate students into the social dynamic of the classroom. In the video, we can find that the students is ordered to do something by doing a group work. This is also one of the ways to create interculturally competent learners. And then the next one is the communication conducted in the classroom. Cultural environments influence facial expressions, gestures, and communication methods. The first one here we have verbal communication. So in the English Learning Arts classroom setting shown in the video, the verbal communication occurs with one person addresses a vast group of people. And there is usually a single transmitter of information, which is here is the teacher, and many receivers, which is here the students in the classroom. Even though the teacher then divided students into several groups, the communication then occurs with two-way communication, where the students inside the groups is discussing something together. And then the last one is non-verbal communication. The non-verbal communication here also occurs in the video mentioned when the teacher gives the students some gestures to showing something. For example, when the teacher asks the students to give a pat on their back if they are ready to start the class. And the teacher also asks the students to turn the paper over when they are done with the task. Moreover, the teacher also asks the students to put a spider toy in their answer on the paper, just like playing a bingo game. And then the last one is the teacher give a cheer gesture as a reward when a student can answer the question correctly. Alright, I think that's all the material from group 5, and me, Hafiz Bagasrinadama here, represents all of my group members. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.